Kristine, remember when you were a kid and you thought that your career was going to be this like perfect straight line trajectory?
Oh my, yes. That is not at all what happened. It ended up being way more of a squiggle than I could have ever imagined. And I am so happy that I embraced all of the squiggles along the way.
All right, welcome back everyone to Embrace the Squiggle, the podcast for anyone whose career or life looks nothing like a straight line. And honestly, that's where all the good stuff is happening. We are Colleen.
And Kristine.
And this is episode 70 with Kelly Martins. Welcome, Kelly.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We are excited to have you today. So we always talk about how we find our podcast guests. And Kelly and I were both at a Bay Path University alumni reunion event that we had a table at, and we were next to each other. And so we had a great day that we ended up chatting almost all day. And by the end, I was like, you know what? You need to be on our podcast. You've had some cool career squiggles and done some really interesting things. So you said yes, which was so exciting.
Here I am, episode 70. Congratulations. That's incredible.
I know. It's crazy sometimes to think of how many of these we've done. All right. We open with the same question every time, and that is, what did little Kelly want to be when she grew up? Like, what did little Kelly think she was going to be?
You know, it's funny. I always, when I was a kid, well, not even just a kid, just even now, I've always loved art and loved creating. But I had a fifth grade teacher who had us write a letter to our adult selves. And she actually sent it to us when we graduated. And I actually came across it a few months ago. And apparently, when I was in fifth grade, I wanted to be the president, which is so far from who I am as a person now as an adult, which is kind of hysterical. But apparently, I wanted to be an artist and the president. So there we have it.
Fantastic. I love my daughter when she was in elementary school, like she and a few of her friends would always talk about like which of them was going to be the president, who'd be the vice president. And they'd started to like go down the track of like who'd be all these things. And every once in a while I'd be like, oh my God, it's like the last thing in the world. Like as an adult, you're like, oh my God, the last thing in the world I would want to be is to be in charge of this country or any
Seriously.
country or like anything that big. So
Yeah.
always makes me chuckle. So you get through school, you went off. Did you go to college right after high school? Like what were you thinking then during those years?
Yeah. So when I graduated high school, I went to college. I went to UMass Amherst for graphic design and photography. So I ended up sticking with the art route and not the presidential political route. And after that, I decided to try and open my own business, which is not something I would recommend right out of college. I definitely needed the work experience before diving into owning a business, but I actually opened up a marketing company back in, 2010, I think it was when I graduated. And it was called KP Communications, and I did websites. And I think social media was just starting to become a thing back then, but my main focus was websites, and I had no idea what I was doing back then.
Do we ever know what we're doing in entrepreneurship?
No. But more so, straight out of college, I did not have, the experience or the mindset I think the main thing is like I didn't have the confidence that I have now.
So I just want to jump in here before we let you continue. One of the things that I'm hearing about in the world are, especially individuals that are doing their MBA, is that a lot of them are not, I almost want to say a little bit of the traditional, let's call it like the linear pathways out of MBA school, into the Big Four or into consulting, or, et cetera, et cetera. What I'm hearing is individuals are graduating with their MBAs and they are buying businesses because we've got this layer that is retiring and looking, succession planning and selling their businesses. So one of the things we always want our listeners to share their words of wisdom, and I'm actually going to ask you to share your words of wisdom. If you could speak to our listeners who might be contemplating, MBA school, what they're doing, that, who are closer in generation to yourself, what would you share with them in terms of perhaps buying a business and taking that leap, maybe in their late 20s, early 30s, into
Yeah.
entrepreneurship?
So, like, I know I kind of want to back step a little and say, like, I'm not saying don't open a business right out of college. That's definitely not what I'm saying. For me, it wasn't the best route because, like I said, I didn't have the experience or the confidence. But what I think is so important when you're in school that I didn't take as much advantage of as I should have was internships, and getting that, like, one-on-one experience with, you know, whatever field it is that you're going into so that you actually have tangible experience before you go out into the workforce. And I also think too, like, when you're in college and you're 18 years old, like, you don't even know who you are as a person yet. So to try and figure out what you wanna do with your future is so difficult, and it's a really hard decision, and I think that's why we see squiggles so much in career paths is because, especially when you're that young and you're in school, it takes you a while. Like, you don't even know who you are until you're, like, 25, sometimes 35, and,
Sometimes 55.
sometimes 35. So, you know, um, yeah, I think getting that internship experience is so important, especially when you're in school. Um, so you can kind of learn like, okay, maybe I don't like doing this, or maybe I love doing that, like this certain thing. Um, so yeah, I think maybe trying to work in the field that you're hoping to pursue is a great starting point.
So it's almost, tips for not just individuals that are maybe looking at buying businesses or taking that leap into entrepreneurship, but our listeners who might be those that are looking to sell their business is, here, I don't know, here's a little share in terms of how can you create opportunities for people to come into your business and work,
Right.
and get a taste of the industry, to help them make that decision down the road. No, I really love that. I think that there's also a bit of a stigma, and both Colleen and I come from higher education, in terms of like, you got to go and you got to go to school and you got to graduate. And it's like, no, it doesn't matter if you takes you 4 years or 6 years,
Mhm.
do what's right. And I couldn't agree more in terms of, I think internship is more of an American term. We call it co-op in Canada. And when somebody tells me that they've done co-op, my eyes just are like this big, because I know that they're just that much further ahead in terms
Mhm.
of skills, experience, and confidence. So,
Yeah, I go back to the confidence thing too because like I said, I tried to start a business out of college and I did not have the confidence to pitch myself, to do sales, to even walk into a room and network was so intimidating to me as my younger self. Um, and honestly, like I think that that is the main reason why that piece of my journey wasn't I don't wanna say wasn't successful because you learn from everything you do, but, I could have been more successful than, if I had the experience and the confidence.
so
Yeah.
where
So where did you go, like, from there? Like, how did you start to build that confidence? Because, spoiler alert, you are running your own business now. So you came
Yeah.
around to that eventually. So, right, what did you do during those years between that had you gain that confidence?
So here is where my squiggle story really starts. Um, so I, started interning. So at the time, like, I had started my business, I realized that I had no idea what I was doing. I was still living with my parents, which gave me the opportunity to try. I have very supportive parents, and I'm very grateful and blessed to have had, experiences because my parents helped me. So I actually started interning, and the internships that I got were in marketing around the services and around the services that I had wanted to offer in my business at the time. And what I realized was that I really loved working with nonprofit organizations. So in doing so, I thought to myself, okay, well, maybe I'll go back to school. So I did. I went back to school and I went to Bay Path University and I did their nonprofit management program. And while I did that, I got a full-time job. So I actually went to work and I was like, all right, I also need work experience too, not just, my degree. And I had gotten a job at the Harold Grinspoon Foundation. Um, I don't even remember what my job title was, some type of like executive assistant role there. And got all kinds of incredible experience there. They were an incredible organization to work for. I got, event planning experience, project management experience. I got to do a little bit of graphic design work there. And then kind of just fine tune my administrative roles in general, which was great. And then from there, when I graduated with my master's, they didn't have opportunity for me. So there was nowhere for me to move up. And I thought to myself, all right, well, I did all this work. I busted my butt to get my master's degree. Like, I'm not just going to sit in a job where, like, there's nowhere for me to go. So, from there, I actually got a job working for the Springfield School Department, um, in project management in their IT department. So it's kind of like a weird little shift there, working for a nonprofit to go and work for the school department.
But right, but
Um,
the project manager for the IT department to me is like the bigger squiggle there, right?
yeah,
That's very different. Like what I mean, you talked about not having the confidence, right, to run your own business. What gave you the confidence to jump into a role that was project management for IT, which sounds vastly different than what you had done
yeah.
before?
So it was more of like an analyst role in project management. So, um, their their IT department had different tiers. So one of the tiers um, was more analytical. So I did a lot of like project implementation and like software integration, which kind of like a little bit aligned with some design work, right? So like there was that kind of piece that kind of carried over a little bit. And my role there just kind of grew. I was there for, geez, 5 or 6 years. And my boss there was incredible. I think he's still there running the show now. But I learned so much from him. It was just an incredible experience working there. And I learned a lot. I did a lot of training. So I got in front of people, and like that's kind of where I built my confidence with public speaking because um, I had to train people on how to use the software that was being implemented in the department. And I'd have to go and I'd have to stand in front of 50 people and be like, all right, this is how it works. And then, answer questions and was super intimidating initially. But then, the more you do something, the more comfortable you get doing it. So that job really helped me build my confidence in terms of, public speaking and then organization in general. And like what I can attest that to is my boss. I had a great boss that really sat with me and like if I didn't understand something, taught me and like was very patient. And I always told them, I'm like, you could be like a college professor someday because he just has incredible patience that most don't. Um, but yeah, I really like attest like the confidence building to that job and the opportunities that I had there.
You know, I love what you're sharing with our listeners today. So many people take positions where they think that they're supposed to develop their weaknesses, and that's not where we build confidence. We build confidence, leveraging our strengths and our interests and the things that motivate us. And I love that you've brought your leader into this conversation, because really, I'm really starting to believe that at the end of the day, it all begins with the leader. Like, it really, really does. And even yesterday, I was out and about Sunday, and we started talking about the inefficiencies of a process on the ferry. And I made a comment around leadership, and everybody at the table agreed with me that far too many people are in leadership positions that should not be in leadership positions. And I love that you're sharing a story around where someone elevated you to build that confidence. And I can't stress enough out there that as a leader, you need to be aware of the impact that you're making on another human.
Yeah, 100%.
And that ability to see somebody's skill set and help them build their skills, right? Very different than strengths, right? The skills are those things that it doesn't matter what your strengths are. You can learn all of these different things, right? But to have somebody who is supportive and excited about putting you in those positions. And I think for particularly things like presenting and building that skill, it's someone who gives you feedback. Because if you're
Yes.
not getting feedback and nobody's giving you that regular feedback about how things are going, you're never going to be able to improve. You're never going to get confident doing it, because you're always going to wonder, like, am I doing this right? Is this good? Did that work? Right. So
Yeah.
communication is definitely a skill that everybody can get better at.
Yes, absolutely.
It's the ongoing feedback. I coached a client last week who had to deliver performance reviews. And one of my first questions were, how often do you have these conversations? Because if you're not having them monthly, you've got to be giving consistent feedback, and if people don't like the word feedback, they're just simply observations that are so helpful, and people can receive it and take what lands and resonates and run with it.
I love Gallup's take on it, right? Because they talk about a 5 to 15 minute meaningful conversation with everybody on your team every week, right? That you have to have that meaningful conversation. And 99% of the time, that meaningful conversation includes some sort of feedback about what somebody has done recently.
Right.
Right. So you work at the school department for many years doing this kind of IT project management role. And then what happens?
So this kind of dives into my personal story a little bit, which I'm happy to share because I think it's really important. So while I was working for the school department, I actually was in a domestically abusive relationship. And, work for me at that time was kind of like a safe space. So I really loved going to work and I really excelled at my job and I was really good at it. And by the time I got out of my relationship, I was just in this place where I just wanted everything in my life to be new. Like, I just wanted to kind of start from scratch in a way, and only do the things that I really loved and like really just lit me up in life. Um, and in thinking about that, I really kind of did a deep dive and was like, okay, um, like what do I want to do? What do I love? And I went back to my healing journey and I told myself, okay, Kelly, if you can just get up every day and you can just get dressed, like that's a win. And for anyone who has ever been at like a emotional rock bottom, like or dealt with depression, like you understand how hard just like changing your clothes can be, right? So I told myself, all right, if you can get up every day and you can just get dressed, do your makeup, brush your hair, just take care of yourself, even if you're sitting on the couch, you know, watching Netflix, eating a bag of chips, like you're gonna look really hot while you're doing it. And I made that promise to myself. And when it came time for me to like think about what I wanted to do, clothing made sense. So I decided to open up an online store, and at the time it was called Contribution Clothing. And it was mission driven, and the whole focus and premise behind my business was that I was going to support nonprofit organizations that empowered women. So I still have always loved, that nonprofit piece and mission driven type businesses. So I knew that I wanted to give back in some way. So I opened Contribution Clothing while I was still working for the school department. And it grew pretty quickly because of all of the nonprofit partnerships and things that I was doing. Um, and I actually won 40 under 40 in 2020 for it, which was, really
Awesome.
incredible. Yeah. Yeah. So it was really great. And it really helped me heal in a way, because I was able to give back and put my head into something that I really loved and like really had a passion for. Um, and then I think after like a year and a half or so, I left the school department to pursue that full time.
That's
So
awesome. And it was right. The fact that you were able to kind of pull that together out of something that was such a bad situation for you, right? That you were able to kind of see that light and grow from it and
Mhm.
to dive into that such a hard place for you.
Yeah, and I think like I actually rebranded the business. So I rebranded it to the GRATI shop, which GRATI is kind of like my personal brand in general, I guess you could say, which is short for gratitude. Because as I started to heal, I started to become really grateful for the experience that I had because I wouldn't be who I am or where I am without that happening to me. And not saying I would want to go back and relive it or anything like that, but um, I'm really grateful for the growth and who I've become. And I've had so many incredible things happen and opportunities happen because of my business and because of that experience in my life that I wouldn't have had otherwise. Um, so I rebranded the boutique to the Grati shop with a whole focus on being grateful for your life and the squiggles it throws you and all of that. Um, and it was really great, and I really loved it, and I ran it for about 5 years, and actually this past December decided to close it so that I could focus on my consulting, which is GRATI Consulting, full time. So,
So courageous.
thank you.
So courageous. And I love how you embraced something that contributed to your healing journey and like paid it forward. It's just that's so beautiful.
Thank
And there's
you.
something to be said about how in terms of like the branding piece, I'll just bring that in because I think a lot of people that go into entrepreneurship don't realize how incredibly important a brand is. And brand is not just colors, it's not just the name. Oh,
Mhm.
Colleen's lighting up here. Oh, we have video
Well,
now,
no,
so I'm able
I
to
was saying
see.
more that, it's that you're jumping into what Kelly does now. So,
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh my
yes.
goodness.
Yeah.
I loved it. I love it. I'm picking up the vibe here, but I'll turn the mic back over to you, Kelly, but it is. It's and I say this to all my clients from a leadership perspective, but it's also branding too. It's not just the color or the words or the title. It's your true essence and your
Yeah.
vibe and your presence and how you carry yourself through the world. So
Yeah.
tell us and our listeners where your squiggle went.
Yeah. So, with contribution clothing / the GRATI shop, I was able to grow it pretty quickly. And I had all of these people, all these entrepreneurs and business owners saying like, "Hey, how'd you do that? Hey, can you help me? Hey," like so many people coming to me, like asking how did you do it? The GRATI shop had grown relatively quickly, and I had a lot of other small business owners coming to me saying like, "Hey, how'd you do that? Hey," like asking me, "Hey, can you help me with your website? Hey, can you help me?" Um, and I ended up doing a lot of like mentorship coaching and marketing strategy and just doing things for entrepreneurs. And I was like, you know what? I could just turn this into a business because if you go back to my whole original business that I wanted to open, it was marketing, right? So it kind of came full circle a little bit there for me. Um, so 2 years ago, I decided to turn what is GRATI Consulting into a business, and I started doing website design, business branding, copywriting, social media management, strategy, all of that. Um, and as I started to do that, my passion kind of went away from the GRATI shop a little bit and more toward my consulting business. And, I think, like, another piece of that too was, like, the boutique, um, was really tied into my healing and who I was before. And, over the last 5 years, I had met someone and, he's now my husband. We got married in November, and I just really kinda wanted to close the door on that in a way and just start this new phase of life without it. So that's like a little, piece of why I decided to move away from the boutique and focus on the consulting only, other than the fact that that's the passion piece for me. But yeah, so now I'm doing that and I'm loving it and it's going amazing.
That's great. And I love how you have made that pivot into the thing that really excites you now, right? The thing, and
Yeah.
it kind of goes back to what you were studying in college,
Yes.
right? The
Yeah.
photography and graphic design, it's in that same area.
Yep.
I feel like a lot of people too, when they think about career squiggles, it has to be really different. And there is power in just simply returning home.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It was very much felt very much like a full circle for me, getting back into this.
With the confidence now,
With the
Yeah,
confidence,
right?
yes. It took me a few years, but, yeah, I'm back to it and, have the skill set now and the confidence, that's the biggest piece, I think.
I love that. What would you like to leave with our listeners in terms of words of wisdom?
I think that it's okay to squiggle, right? Life throws us twists and turns, and I think that it's okay to follow them and see where they go. Like I never would have imagined that, my career would have gone this way. But I'm super happy and grateful for the way that things worked out for me. Um, you know, I never would have thought that I would have worked for the school department for so long, but like you never know what's gonna happen. Like, if I didn't work at the school department, I never would have met my husband. So, there's always a reason for something somewhere that we might not, realize or know, and they say hindsight's 2020. But, um, yeah, I just say, like, just embrace the path that you're on and follow the things that light you up and make you happy.
It's just leaning into the unknown.
Yeah. Yeah, it's scary. It can be scary for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
But I think if you chase the happiness and the passion, then everything else will follow.
Love it.
I love it. That's like the mic drop quote at the end there,
I
right? Like,
know.
okay, good. Great, we're done. Okay, thank you so much.
And we didn't even send you a script. It's so in alignment with what the message Colleen and I want to put out to the world. So thank
I love
you.
it.
Great. Do you want to take us through our lightning round here, Kristine?
Sure. I would love to. Okay, so we would love to hear just a little bit more about you.
A little bit more about me.
A little bit more about you. So I've got a couple questions.
Sure.
To ask
Okay.
you. Oh my goodness, I've got lots to choose from. What color brings you the most joy?
Yellow. It's a happy color.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful. I just bought actually a new cycling jersey in the color of yellow, and it's a real warm, buttery yellow. I love it. And oh, I love this. Colleen switched all the questions and didn't tell me. They're actually
I added some.
super fun. Oh no, they're great. Oh my goodness. Okay. So what emoji do you use the most?
I don't even know what it's called, but it's like it's one of the faces that's like melting.
Oh, I think that's what it is, the melting face.
I think that like I use it as like a frustration emoji, like like
I can't go down right now, so I have to go to the side. I have to melt to the side.
Yeah. Colleen's gonna start sending me that one at times. I know I make Colleen melt in certain moments. Okay. If you were to get a tattoo, what would it be?
Oh gosh. Okay. I actually am not a tattoo person. I'm not against them in any way, but it's just not something I've ever wanted. So this is a hard question for me.
Okay.
I would have to say my dog, maybe. I don't know. I really love my dog, so maybe something on my dog.
I love it. I love it. Like their name or something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Something that's has meaning.
Yes.
What do you value most in others?
What do I value most in others? I think a positive outlook, I think, and humor. Like I really admire people that, can just walk into a room, light it up, and make everyone laugh, I tend to be a little more on the serious side, so I appreciate people that can do that.
That's beautiful. It is a beautiful quality. Life doesn't have to be serious all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love it. And are you binging or streaming anything on Netflix or the million other channels you people have in the States?
Yeah, so I am, and I'm like 10 years too late on this, but I'm finally watching Game of Thrones.
I haven't watched that either.
Me neither.
I'm
10 years behind on it too.
It's funny because it's like, when you read a book and then like you want to talk to people about it, you're like, oh my God, like who am I going to talk to this book about this book to? I feel like that about Game of Thrones. Like I'm wanting to talk to people like, oh my God, did you see this happen? But I'm like 10 years late watching it. So everyone already knows what happened.
I feel like Game of Thrones came up in one of our other episodes and they had just rewatched it first. There was something significant that had happened. I can't quite remember this story off the top of my head. Sorry, guest. But Game of Thrones came up in another conversation, I remember.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love it. Kelly, you've been a fabulous guest. And I love your story and your vulnerability. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
I know that this will have landed for at least one person and probably many more.
Many people.
Yeah, absolutely. So where can our listeners find you if they'd like to connect?
Sure. I am on social media. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at GRATI Consulting. That's GRATI Consulting. My website, which is graticonsulting.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn as well.
Okay, fabulous. Wonderful. And you can, of course, follow Embrace a Squiggle on Instagram. And Colleen has been blowing up TikTok. So go and give us a follow. We love seeing all of your reviews on Apple Podcasts, so please keep them coming. This week's Embrace the Squiggle podcast is brought to you by myself, Kristine Thody, Coaching and Consulting, offering executive and leadership coaching, career and operational consulting, all rooted in authenticity. And of course, you can connect with Colleen and I on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. So thank you again for joining us. Oh, and my weekly shout out to the lovely Lily Paxton, who produces our podcast. We can't forget her. So thank you, Lily. Kelly, have a fabulous week. Thank you for being a guest.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Thanks, Kelly. Is it time for you to add a little squiggle to your career? Join us every week to hear from another guest talk about how they embrace the squiggle.
Subscribe now and find your inspiration.